Hey folks, this is Ben Yessel. How's it going? I've got a lot of thoughts going on right now, and believe me, I'm usually just about asleep at this point. I suppose, I think I know kind of why I'm still up maybe. Yeah. But I'm gonna divert some of these thoughts in a different direction here. I haven't talked about this as much for a while. The subject of music composition is very much uh, a creative subject like uh, painting or drawing or creative writing or something like that, where it's just, you know, you write what you want to write, or you draw what you want to draw, you paint what you want to paint. That being said, uh, it's there's always a question of how do you how do you have a some kind of way of how do you have some kind of way of gauging how is that word gauging or measuring how or determining determining how skilled a composer is. Is there one way? Is there multiple ways? Is there an infinite number of ways? Well, I mean, it's um, composition because it involves the creation of music itself. Touches on every aspect of music you could possibly imagine. It touches on notation. It touches on orchestration or instrumentation, orchestration. It touches on music theory, of course. It's integral with music theory. It touches on music history. Touches on, you know, the all the different instruments and their having an understanding of what they can do. It touches on conducting. It touches on music aesthetics, and you know, I mean, there's nothing musical that composition doesn't uh, require skill wise. So a composer has to be if they're a good composer, they have to be a consummate musician. What I mean by consummate is they have to be not just a performer or conductor or just have one be good at one musical skill, but they have to be good at a huge variety of musical skills in order to be, I think, a what I would call a good composer. So if the composer doesn't fit that, if a composer is not a consummate musician, then they're probably not going to be, in my view, a good composer. But by the same token, I might if I like their music, if I genuinely like it, then I'll say, oh, okay, they're probably pretty good, right? All right, maybe that's a little hard on them. So that's it in a nutshell. I think that the best composers have the widest range of skills in music that you can possibly imagine. But you guys know that's not the complete answer there. Um, there's a lot to be said for um, which composers that you relate to personally, right? Which composers do you get the most inspiration from? And those composers that you get the most inspiration from, you're going to view them much more highly than others. Of course, that's how we all are. Um, you know, why is this question important? Well, perhaps I should back up a little bit here. The importance of anything, really, is simply based around how much meaning something gives us in our lives. Because we're looking for purpose, we're looking for meaning in life, right? Just like the Matrix, they're talking about that stuff. It's the same deal with. It's just so if music, certain kinds of music, certain pieces, bring a lot more meaning to your life, then that's why this is important. You're going to view that music far more highly than other pieces of music. But what that music is, it varies from person to person somewhat. So there's this conflict between, well, so who are the best composers, and is it like a relative thing, or is there an absolute? But that's just, I mean, talking about skills, you have to consider that the person who has 12 different skills at a professional or near professional level, musically, that's going to, regarding composition, that's going to serve him far better than the person who has only one or two abilities. Not always, not necessarily, but it's going to, when it comes to composition, it's going to result in a stronger composer. It will. That's not the same thing as somebody who speaks to you directly, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, in their music. So, how do you improve as a composer? Because there's so many different things to improve. If it's like a wide variety of things, how can you, well, you focus on your weaknesses, and you try to make your strengths even stronger. Of course, by writing, by being involved with activities that help you develop your musicality and your ear, that sort of thing. It's just also, it's a question of, are you achieving what you want to achieve in music? If you aren't, then you're not at the point where you need to keep getting better. You need to keep searching for music that inspires you. You need to, right? If you are writing music that you're really happy with, the question is, how happy are you with that music? Or is it bigger stuff you want to do? Is it more emotional stuff? Is it what is it? Your singer-songwriters are going to have a completely different idea of music than your avant-garde classical composers. It's a given. And but where you get into the actual who's better than who is, it comes down to how many skills you're bringing to the table, and how skilled are you at those things. You could say that a video game composer is one of the best composers of all time, but if a guy so his life is programming, right? He's a good programmer. If he only is great at coming up with fun little tunes with bass accompaniment, he's going to be nowhere near the composer who has a real solid understanding of music theory, can write very chromatically and your training is through the roof, and you can conduct and you know plays instruments. It's gonna be nowhere near that level of musicality. And this, there's so that there's a emotional, there's a lot of dimensions to this, but what I wanted to mention too, that um, most people don't truly understand um, how to measure a composer's real ability. It, again, it's a very comprehensive kind of thing. It's you have to take everything into account. You can't just, like in the case of performance, you can't just, you can't look at finger speed and technical things. It's just so much bigger than that regarding compositional ability. Why do we think that, let's say, Beethoven is a superior composer compared to Brahms? Why is Beethoven better than Brahms? You could give some answers to that. That might be pretty good answers, but you're never going to get a one sentence answer that just sums it up entirely without it being still kind of vague or just whatever. Was it how well Beethoven understood when to repeat something and when not to? His sense of form? Was that better than Brahms? Was it how uh, great his melodies were? How well crafted they were? Did he just have more of them? Were they more tuneful? Was it the amount of music that he wrote? Was it um, or actually is Brahms not that much worse than Beethoven? Are they actually indeed closer in ability? It's very subjective, but we need, some part of our minds, we want to know who's the best of the best. We want to know, you know, who are the top dogs that have ever lived in this field, and is it possible to write even better music than they've written? It's a hard one because on some level it just goes back to what music you find the most meaning in. Um, but I think that um, it's still misunderstood by academia. They want to make too much of a big deal out of the techniques and the um, all the details of a piece. Where so much of the time, greatness, I think, is measured by the nature of an experience of listening to a new piece of music. If that piece is especially remarkable in some way, why is it some music stays in our subconsciouses, and others just kind of not so much? And it's the ones that stay have real staying power, even if it's really dissonant and weird. Those that stay longer, those are the stronger melodies. That's the better music. And why is that? See, that's the question. That's the question. And every melody is different. You have to know how to treat different melodies. But you have to come up with different melodies to begin with, or motifs or ideas. It's really hard to teach that. But, you see, if somebody is listening to harmonies their entire life and they're thinking about them subconsciously, they're mulling over it, they're really processing everything that they're learning in music. Big time. Well, yeah. Anyway, hopefully this has been a good video for you guys to watch. I will leave the thoughts and comments below. Catch you guys later. Take care.